This month of October is both Respect Life Month and the month of the Rosary. It is most fitting, then, to reflect on today's Gospel about giving to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and giving to God what belongs to God. Caesar here represents the state or the federal government or human laws. We give the state what is legitimately and justly owed to the state. But more importantly, Jesus teaches us to give God what belongs to God. We must respect God and God's laws over human beings and human laws. Unjust human laws need not be obeyed, and we are bound as Christians to disobey human laws whenever they contradict God's laws. God's laws protect the dignity of the human person. The dignity of the human person means that each individual being has worth in and of themselves. Each of us is in the image and likeness of God. We are in God's image and likeness because we have the ability, like God, to reason and to choose. In today's first reading, it is written in the book of the prophet Isaiah, I am the Lord, and there is no other. There is no God but me. Here, we see the dominion and lordship of God over all aspects of human life. Two emotionally charged controversial issues needing the light of the gospel today are racism and abortion. Human life and dignity of the human person ultimately belong to God, not to Caesar, not to the state, not to elected officials. The Second Vatican Council explicitly condemned three things in Gaudium et Spes. First, indiscriminate bombing of non-combatant civilians, which I'm not going to focus on today. Secondly, direct abortion, and thirdly, racism. I'm going to focus on only two issues, abortion and racism, as they relate to Caesar and God. Let's start with some brief points about direct abortion. I say this with as much love and gentleness that could be pastorally said from this ambo. Innocent human life should be protected absolutely from the moment of conception. Innocent human life should be protected absolutely from the moment of conception. Whatever we do to the least of our brothers and sisters in the womb, we do to Jesus himself. And modern science, which is a type of Caesar, and the natural order would agree with God's law. With the invention of the microscope, I believe it was the 19th century, science shows that at the moment of conception, the new entity inside the womb possesses the same human genes as you and me outside the womb. I also say with as much love as possible that if we have been involved with a direct abortion or cooperated in one formally, let today's gospel be an invitation to come to conversion by giving God what belongs to God, human life. Respect for human dignity from womb to tomb also means respecting the dignity of the human person regardless of their background. It means that each person has worth and value in and of themselves, not because of some usefulness or utility or benefit they can give to me, but each person is deserving of respect for who they are. And human dignity does not depend on what others can do, because we are human beings, not human doings. In fact, it should be said that there is an important distinction here between respecting the human person and the human act. We need not agree with the person's actions or their choices, but we must always respect the person. We don't want to flip that around. We don't want to say, well, I respect your evil choices, but I hate your person. No, we love the human person but we do not necessarily approve of someone's actions. We can, for instance, say we love the person, but not the evil action. At present in the United States, racism and race relations have much media attention. Perhaps to some degree, there may be some of us in here that have experienced racism in the course of our life. If so, let this gospel be a moment to purify our hearts of any hatred and hurt that we have experienced. Race relations should be built on godly principles, such as the moral principle of solidarity, instead of some trendy human standard of how cultures should work together. For us as Christians, it is ultimately in the Holy Eucharist that is the source of our communion with each other in the church. In society, however, when God or moral principles are removed from the foundation of respect for the human person, mere human ways of Caesar can take over. Solidarity, a principle of Catholic social doctrine, means a type of social friendship, or a type of brotherhood or a sisterhood, a unity with others that are different from my own culture. In other words, even though I may not have experienced the hardships of this person or that person, I can somehow relate and remain united with that person. For example, I may not be of somebody's race or culture or be a woman, etc., but I can find ways to be in solidarity with those experiencing injustice. One dangerous way that Caesar tries to address race relations is through a philosophy called Marxism, or through class warfare, a total contradiction of Christianity. One might even call this a type of the errors of Russia, from where this theory came. Whereas Karl Marx and Saul Alinsky used class warfare, which is pitting groups against each other, black versus white, men versus women, rich versus poor, labor versus capital, etc., for social progress. Catholic social doctrine, based on the gospel, on the other hand, speaks of solidarity, mutual cooperation, forgiveness, protecting the innocent, and human dignity, because human law can only go so far. It is hearts that need conversion. In my own life, I have been tempted many times since college to fall into the trap of Marxism to solve social ills. If it wasn't for the writings of St. Thomas Aquinas, St. John Paul II, and Catholic social teaching, I definitely would have been a Marxist and would have left the church to try to solve social ills in a human way. I mean, we look at Poland's solidarity in 1989 and the Philippines' 1986 EDSA revolution, where the power of the rosary and solidarity was used to bring about change in a non-violent, bloodless way. I would have given Caesar that which only belongs to God, which is respect of human life and dignity. In fact, I'm reminded of a story here told by Cardinal Jaime Sin of Manila, who was the Archbishop of Manila. During 1986, he said there was one time when a group of soldiers were going to fire into a crowd of innocent people. I don't know what they were doing. They might have been praying the rosary or peacefully protesting. And Cardinal Sin told how a beautiful woman appeared and said, "Stop, do not fire on this people. I am the queen of this land." Poland in 1989 and the Philippines in 1986 and the solidarity are examples to the United States in our violence-ridden society. We as followers of Jesus believe in the power of the human spirit to rise above the divisions of society, where strangers help each other, to heal acts of racism that we see on television or even experiencing right now, to promote racial harmony and the interdependence of cultures. We need not approve of the acts, and we should always defend ourselves. We can take what is good, true, and beautiful from each culture and reject what is bad and evil in each culture. These are some ways to respond to these evils based on today's gospel. The enemy of souls wants us divided. For us, let at least the hurt that we experience in our hearts can be rooted out. We need not return evil for evil, but rather goodness for the evils of racism and violence. Caesar does not command our hearts, and our hearts do not belong to Caesar. Our hearts belong to God. So let us purify our hearts of hatred and woundedness. Let us rather build a civilization of love, not a culture of death and violence that respects the dignity of the human person from womb to tomb, from natural beginning to natural end. As we sang, let us not give Caesar glory and honor, but let us give the Lord glory and honor. Let us not give evil actions glory and honor, but let us give the Lord of the human person glory and honor. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to God what belongs to God.